The last few years have witnessed a great American exodus from states and localities governed by leftist politicians.
From the word go, Ron DeSantis's keynote national conservatism speech targeted liberal states which are, quote, hemorrhaging wealth, such as New York, New Jersey, Illinois, and California.
Since COVID, there's been more adjusted gross income move into the state of Florida than has ever moved into any one state over a similar time period in American history.
He said while some residents may be concerned that those fleeing liberal cities will bring progressive values to Florida and change the state for the worse, he isn't fazed.
When I got elected governor in 2018, there were close to 300,000 more registered Democrats in the state of Florida than Republicans. Today, the latest numbers are we now have 271,000 more registered Republicans than Democrats.
There's a multitude of reasons for the exodus, but many are arguably linked to the decline in quality of life.
We had to choose freedom over Fauciism in the state of Florida.
Mr. DeSantis highlighted how other states deferred to single-minded scientists for policy decisions at the height of the COVID pandemic, and on most significant issues, got it wrong. He suggested people are recognizing the correlation between the way big liberal cities are governed and the effect it has on the public services they rely on.
The state of Florida has 3 million more people than the state of New York, which is our closest competitor in terms of population. And yet New York's budget is over twice the size of the budget of the state of Florida. But do we have worse roads than them? No. Do we have worse services? No. And we have higher performing K through 12 schools and the #1 ranked public higher education system in the country. And we do all of that with no income tax and the second lowest per capita tax burden in the country.
On education, Mr. DeSantis said that in Florida, families have choice, rather than living under the diktats imposed by teachers' unions in many cities.
So we have a total number of students in Florida in choice programs totaling 1.3 million students. We also have 363,000 students in charter schools, which are public schools, but they're not run by the school district and, more importantly, not influenced by the teachers' unions.
Another issue that's long plagued progressive cities such as New York, California, and Chicago is public safety as a result of rising crime.
We are not going to let the inmates run the asylum here. We are not going to release criminals back onto the street. We're not going to defund law enforcement.
Mr. DeSantis said that by slashing police funding, politicians send a message to officers that you don't have their backs. He then took aim at liberal prosecutors.
Through non-enforcement, they are trying to reimagine what the justice system is. Nobody voted for those changes in the legislature. They're just taking it upon themselves to do it. So in San Francisco, they said if you don't steal $1,000, anything less than $1,000 you steal, you're fine, no prosecution. LA, you have people getting mugged on the street because the people that are committing these crimes, no, they're not going to prosecute. That has caused those societies to decay.
After the summer riots in 2020, Florida passed legislation that prevents local governments from defunding law enforcement. In the meantime, those involved in mob violence will be locked up.
And I have to say, brag a little bit, our anti-riot legislation was recently criticized by the United Nations, so I wear that as a badge of honor.
Above all, one of the things Mr. DeSantis said he was proudest of was that Florida had chosen to educate, not indoctrinate kids.
We have done things like ban the use of critical race theory in our K through 12 schools.
Instead, he said Florida has launched an initiative to get civics back into the classroom.
Freedom from indoctrination. We need to be teaching kids what it means to be an American. We need to teach them about the founding principles of our country, why the Constitution is structured the way it is, why our Bill of Rights are like they are. We need to teach them that in the American system, our rights come from God, not from the government.
The Florida governor spoke on many other issues, including corporate America and big tech, highlighting how their role in the leftward slide in society, on top of existing institutions, makes today a much harder fight for conservatives.
Just because the media and the elites are saying to do something, that does not mean it's the right thing to do. We are not afraid to buck the discredited ruling class and elites in our country.